Hello, dear friends. Today we continue our acquaintance with the memoirs of Waffen SS Major General Kurt Meyer. Don't forget to rate the video and leave your opinion about this material. Well, let's begin. The War with the Soviet Union. The news of the attack on the Soviet Union struck us like a bolt of lightning. While in the Czech Republic, we listened to the radio as Adolf Hitler justified his decision with the desire to finally get rid of Bolshevism, which threatened the whole world. With a bad feeling that we might suffer the same fate as our fathers, who had been victims of war on several fronts, we prepared for the most brutal war that soldiers had ever had to fight. On the morning of June 27, 1941, our battalion marched eastward past jubilant residents. On June 30th, we crossed the Vistula River near Anapol and reached the Russian border near the village of Ustilug at 8 a.m. Meanwhile, our forces had already advanced far to the east. The Leibstandarte Adolf Hitler, which had been expanded from a brigade to a division, was assigned to Army Group South, commanded by Field Marshal von Rundstedt, whose immediate task was to break through with motorized units in the direction of Kiev, during which the Russian forces west of the Dnieper were to be destroyed. To accomplish this task, the Army Group had at its disposal 26 infantry divisions, 4 motorized infantry divisions, 4 light infantry divisions, and 5 tank divisions. The offensive of Army Group South was supported by the 4th Air Fleet under the command of Colonel General Lear. Army Group South had a total of 57 divisions and 13 brigades, including 13 Romanian divisions, 9 Romanian, and 4 Hungarian brigades. Field Marshal von Rundstedt was opposed by Marshal Budioni, with 40 infantry divisions, 14 motorized divisions, 6 mechanized corps, and 21 cavalry divisions. The Russians fought stubbornly and tenaciously for every inch of ground. Fierce fighting continued across the entire front when we reached the Sever Highway near Lutsk on July 1st. On July 2nd, we received orders to advance on Rivne via Klevan and establish contact with the 3rd Motorized Corps there. A report was received that the 3rd Motorized Corps was surrounded near Rivne. Large enemy mechanized units attacked our stretched flanks. The situation with the enemy was something completely new to us. Slightly discouraged, I looked at my maps to inform my soldiers about the situation. The old criteria were no longer applicable. Where was the clear distinction between us and the enemy? Far ahead, the tank divisions of the 3rd Motorized Corps had launched combat operations east of Rivne. German infantry units were fighting a few kilometers ahead of us, while Russian troops were fighting to the north and south of us. After unsuccessful attempts to give my comrades a clear picture of the situation, I summed up the situation with the following words: "Today, the enemy is everywhere." When I addressed my soldiers, I did not yet realize how close I was to the truth in summarizing the situation. A couple of kilometers east of Lutsk, near the railroad, we came across the last outposts of an infantry battalion. Thick clouds of smoke showed us the location of a damaged Russian tank. A dark forest stretched on both sides of the road as we moved eastward. We had to cover a distance of 60 kilometers to reach Rivne. Would we reach our destination on time and be able to provide our comrades from the 25th Motorized Division with tangible support? I gave the signal to the advance units to start moving into the approaching night. Fritz Montag was in the lead. Montag was a World War I veteran and commander of the motorcycle platoon of the 1st Company of the 1st SS Reconnaissance Battalion. Slowly at first, then faster and faster, the vanguard moved forward into the dark woods. I wanted to shout, "Stop!" What I've been telling you isn't true. The machine is not your friend. Move slowly, or you'll ride to your death." But my lips remained tightly closed. They were pressed together so tightly that there was no gap for air to pass through. Squinting, I followed the leading units of the column with my eyes as they moved deeper and deeper into the forest. Damaged Russian tanks stood along the sides of the road. Trucks and horse-drawn transport had been abandoned under the trees. In one place, we found 12 camouflaged Russian T-26 light tanks. They had no fuel and had also been abandoned. The battalion, ready for battle, moved across the vast wasteland stretching to the north. Suddenly, I saw the lead platoon disappear, and the 20-millimeter gun of our armored vehicle opened fire on individual bushes. Then 4 or 5 of these bushes moved toward us and started shooting from a distance of about 150 meters. Well-camouflaged Russian tanks attacked the marching column. In the blink of an eye, everyone hid in the bushes and watched the duel between our armored vehicles and the enemy tanks. Several of our anti-tank guns joined the battle and put an end to the confusion. A few minutes later, we resumed our march. The burning tanks continued to light up the night sky behind us for a long time. So, at 7 o'clock in the evening, we exchanged the first shots with Soviet troops. To make sure we would accomplish our mission, I sent a combat reconnaissance group south and ordered them to go to Klevin via Olika and wait for the battalion in Klevin. When we reached Stovek and moved further east, we were already enveloped in complete darkness. Shortly after midnight, I spotted a truck crossing the road right in front of me, and then other vehicles on a narrow forest road. Russians. Within minutes, the motorcyclists opened machine gun fire in their direction. Several enemy trucks burst into flames, and tall columns of fire lit up the forest road intersection. The forest had an unearthly effect. The darkness was oppressive and extremely tense. I felt uneasy. Such a battle was too unpredictable for me, and, among other things, I did not have the necessary experience of fighting the Russians. Hour after hour, we moved through the darkness. More than 30 kilometers still separated us from Rivne. A couple of kilometers from Klevin, just beyond the forest, which, thank God, we had passed, we stopped and the battalion closed ranks. We could hear the sound of fierce fighting coming from Klevin. Flashing bursts of fire showed us where the battle was taking place. Just as I was about to move towards Klevin, I heard a terrible scream behind me. Amidst the explosions of grenades, the swearing of soldiers, the grinding of tank tracks, and the roar of breaking metal, I could make out the outline of a tank in the column. To my horror, I saw that the tank was plowing straight through the motorcycles. Then it turned sharply across the road to the left and disappeared into the darkness. No sooner had we recovered from this surprise than the same trick was repeated a little further away at the end of the column. 2 enemy tanks drove into our marching column in the dark and only noticed their mistake when they stopped. For our part, we mistook them for our own armored vehicles and thus continued along the forest road in the company of the Russians. Other Russian tanks were spotted to the left of the road. The combat reconnaissance group I had sent to Olika made contact with part of the 3rd Battalion of the 1st SS Infantry Regiment and was under heavy pressure from large Russian forces. The 12th Company of the 1st SS Infantry Regiment requested assistance because it was surrounded by Russians. So, as soon as dawn broke, we had to rescue the units that were in a dangerous situation and continue the advance towards Rivne. We quickly rushed forward. The Russians were fighting for the road. Meanwhile, it had become completely light, and we could make out a long column of abandoned trucks. The enemy infantry was right in front of us in the fields of tall wheat and was trying to gain the upper hand over the 12th Company of the 1st SS Infantry Regiment. So far, the enemy's attempts had been unsuccessful. The SS Company received reinforcements in the form of our armored car just in time. Without wasting any time, we returned through the forest to Klaven. The village was taken, and the offensive on Rivne continued. The road ran in a southeasterly direction. A couple of kilometers from Klaven, the road descended, then climbed steeply uphill again. I was moving behind the advance guard platoon and examining the terrain through my binoculars. Suddenly, I thought I saw an abandoned gun on the slope. Among the green cereal field, I could make out a couple of light patches. The gun was a light 75mm field gun that had been left in its firing position. It made a depressing impression on us. It was the first time we had found a German gun abandoned on the battlefield. A few steps away from the gun stood a gutted ambulance. Its doors were wide open and covered in blood. Silently, we surveyed the devastated area. No living or dead soldiers were found. We slowly moved up the road. The light patches became more and more distinct. We could distinguish large and small patches very clearly. I dropped my binoculars, rubbed my eyes, and picked them up again. My God! Was this possible? Could what I had just seen be real? We covered the last couple of 100 meters quickly. The advance guard dismounted and ran with me toward the light patches. Our steps slowed. We froze. We didn't dare go any further. We held our steel helmets in our hands as if we were praying. Not a single word was uttered to desecrate this place. Even the birds fell silent. Before us lay the naked bodies of a German company of soldiers, mercilessly mutilated. Their hands were bound with wire. Their eyes stared at us wide open. The officers of this company had met an even more brutal death. They lay a few meters away from their comrades. We found their bodies torn to pieces and trampled underfoot. Still, not a word was spoken. Here, Her Majesty Death spoke. Slowly, we walked past our slain comrades. My soldiers stood facing me. They expected me to give them an explanation or guidance on how to behave in Russia in the future. We looked at each other. I looked into the eyes of each soldier. Without saying a word, I turned, and we moved toward the unknown. That's all for today. If you liked the video, please support it with a like and subscribe to the channel. See you all soon.